So I just got done watching the first episode of the new Mobile Suit Gundam anime, Quacks, which honestly I thought Quacks was people just saying, hey, that's how we're gonna say it because that name is something else. But it sounds like the characters actually call it the Quacks, so that was fascinating. I like Gundam. I've liked all the modern ones. I loved Witch from Mercury. I really enjoyed Iron Blooded Orphans. So I knew I was gonna get something good out of this one. I get it, everyone's like, why can't it be like the older series? There's a lot of opinions when it comes to the Gundam franchise about what's the best one, what should it be more like going forward. But then Quacks comes out, and it strikes this balance of old meets new. There's this massive tonal shift in presentation. You have the best way to describe this show is it almost feels like Trigger or Gainax made Gundam. And before people were like, yeah, but what about Gurren Lagann? Like, no, that's different. Legitimately, the character designs and everything, especially when you look at the more bright and poppy aesthetic of the central characters who I assume we're gonna follow, the main girl and everyone, it just feels very Trigger-ish. And I love that personally. I love looking at it and their world in general. Every nook and cranny, you see history and story waiting to be told. But all the space combat stuff, like the first stuff we see in the episode, and anytime they're in space, it looks like something pulled from the 80s or 90s, but obviously done it with a modern twist. And I like that they're clearly going intentional with the tonal shift, because there's two different tones to the show, both with our central cast and everything going on there, and already like what's going on with wars and generals and the like. And from my understanding, this is an alternate telling of the UC universe or something, so it's gonna be interesting to see. I'm not a master of Gundam lore knowledge. I never have been, I never will be. That's not, I just come up here every time and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna look at this one and experience the story as it is. But at the end of the day, they're already setting up a lot of interesting things that I'm excited to see more of. I mean, the fact that you have these douche nozzles come in, land where people live, and they're like, okay, rip off the roof. We have to find who we're looking for. They don't give a shit, but because, discrimination of who they are, it doesn't matter if you stomp on their way of life because you're seen as a higher person, a higher species in a way. There's a lot here, and for the first episode, I am hooked. Like, I know there was the movie that did like the first 4 episodes or whatever, but yeah, I am so excited to see how Quacks is going to line up in the long term. Now, before we jump any further, gotta mention, we do got the full live reactions over on my Patreon. If you want to see my full thoughts on these episodes, support my work over there exclusively. So, I loved it. The production was insane though. Like, seriously, like when things are just, they're spinning and flying and it just looks so damn, like, it looked like a movie. Now, granted, am I under the assumption that potentially the first 4 episodes might look a lot better than maybe future episodes because it was made as a movie initially? Maybe. But the Gundam anime have looked good literally the past decade. But I'm not gonna lie, I think this was the most visually striking and stunning Gundam series we've had out of the last 3. Iron Blooded Orphans, Witch from Mercury, this included. It just looks so... It oozed cinema. Like, that's the best way to describe it. It oozed cinema. And I like the vibes of the character. I can't really say, like, I know these characters yet. We're still in the intro. But I didn't find it was, like, too fast-paced or anything. I felt like, this isn't my first rodeo with Gundam. Maybe if it was people's first rodeo, maybe they'd be a little more like, I wish some things were a little more slowed down. But at the end of the day, Gundam's a giant universe. Different wars have ended. New wars are going to begin. Gonna be people in mobile suits. Usually someone gonna steal a mobile suit or they're gonna be in a mobile suit and shit's just gonna escalate from there. And I felt like the idea of how this girl just was like, you know what, shit's hitting the fan, give me that shit, we're gonna go fly. And the way she stole this man's mobile suit, so the Quacks is like the central Gundam for the show, right? I just love that. Like, she has this like mascot hacking character, which is just pure adorable. That shit's gonna sell merchandise like crazy. And the way it just hacks into this thing and says, all right, boss man, let's do this, was so freaking fun. And I really, like I said, I really like the character designs. When you look at the central girl, if you don't see Trigger influence, I don't know what to tell you. Like that, if I had no knowledge there was a new Gundam show coming out, and you just showed me her character design, I'd say, oh, what's Trigger making? And I love that. I really do. But it's like, I like that they didn't go just completely with that modern look because it really does have a very modern influence. All the space stuff too looks like, honestly, a lot of it could be looked at like, oh, like what Gundam movie is that? Like some of the more classical looking ones. They just struck this interesting tonal shift, and I think given the probably multiple perspectives we'll see and everything, I think it makes sense to have that kind of contrast kind of competing with each other. Just fun. In a way, I kind of wish I had the movie, and I could watch it, but I don't want to. I want to watch it in a weekly format. Because I think there's a lot of setup still left to happen here. But at the end of the day, I felt like they did what they needed to for a first episode. You need to say, we need to get the viewer to say they need to watch more. And that's what they did. They made me say, oh shit, like, production is insane. If they can keep this level of production up the whole way, it's gonna be regarded as one of the best looking Gundam shows. Even if like maybe people don't mess with the character designs always, the animation speaks for itself. And it's gonna be interesting what they do because they're already setting up a lot of the political implications of this, you know, especially because you're dealing with like almost like, it kind of reminded me of how in our own world we have like robot fighting, right? Like we build robots, they fight each other, all that stuff. But like imagine doing that but with Gundams and how it's like underground and stuff. I thought that was kind of cool. But I love the idea that when those bastards pop down, they're ripping roofs off. Like this is literally where people live, but they don't give a shit because they think they're higher than them and they can do whatever they want. Like what absolute douche nozzles. Like I immediately wanted to rise up against them and say down with the man. It just, they get you hooked in. And I think it was a very solid first episode. This was one of my personal most anticipated shows, and hands down is one of my most anticipated, like probably top 2, top 3 most anticipated episode 2s of the season. They did good. I liked the look of it. I liked the fresh take meets the retro take. And in general, I just want to see where the show is going to evolve. My one hope is that it, you know, maybe we'll go back to the 50 episode Gundam formula where you get 25 episodes in 25, but I know it's not going to happen. I'm more expecting this to be a 25 episode show total between 2 cores. I guess Gundam's just no longer doing 50 episodes, unless maybe Witch from Mercury was just a one-off. I don't know. But if they could, because that's one thing I can give Iron Blooded Orphans, is that I felt like they expanded a lot with its 2 seasons. And I really think this could have a lot of potential. But then again, I am okay with more short, sweet, to the point stories. I do like how Witch from Mercury went. The greedy part of me just wants to see 50 episodes, especially if it's going to look this good. Let me know your thoughts, whether if you saw the movie in cinemas or if you're brand new to the QuuuuuuX anime. What are you thinking, and how do you like the look of this one overall? Do let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell, and like I mentioned, full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Carlos D. Lopez, Stefan Bernat, Darius Vahaj, Universal God, OK then, Kevin Wallace, NA, and we also have Tony Keats. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and you'll have a good one.